Pluribus has kind of given me a story that I always wondered, because really, what does a truly united population feel like? What does it mean to truly be one and have no conflicts and crime? Okay, it's a bit extreme in this case and not without its flaws. And a few characters, like Carol, are the only ones detached from the new life. But her reaction has gotten a bit of mixed feedback from the general crowd watching this Gilligan masterpiece. So I ask, why is Carol hated? And does she really deserve it? Without any delay, let's get to it. Because you're watching this video, I'm certain you've watched the show, so I'll skip introducing Carol to you guys, knowing well she might be fresh on your minds due to the crazy plot of the show that only starts to thicken. Okay, so Carol. We know she's got quite a fan following and loves to write for them. Well, sort of. Because we see she's not that satisfied when she's away from all the crazy fandom and press. That really hits the point because it seems she suppresses her true self in her written stuff and is basically giving the people what they want, as it is bringing in the money, so why not? But seeing her move her books to the bestseller rack makes me think that Carol does care about the popularity, but she also cares about her own true self. That is why she is one person in public and someone else in person. From her perspective, it is the only way to maintain her popularity and not risk backlash from people seeing her love life and real nature. Carol is rigid, pretty hypocritical, and quite bitter because she doesn't like the fact that her fans are seeing a version of her that she isn't really true. But then you see another side of her, one that deeply cares about Helen, although she is in constant self-doubt about her work, and a little honest, too, in that she speaks her mind a little violently sometimes. So when Carol turns out to be one of 13 people who didn't get a software update, making them super happy, one-minded, and honestly a bit contradicting in their intentions, Carol is super aware of the ridiculous nature of the change in people. And it may have also been triggered strongly because the love of her life was lost during that transition. So why is there a raging hate train for Carol on the internet?
We could take a cab home.
Well, people who have watched the show are quite divided. I mean, I pretty much expected it because of how Carol was behaving, and more so because she is the central character. So you pretty much cannot ignore her Karen-like rudeness in any episode. Carol is so unwatchable. Oh my god, Carol is behaving so rudely and is unbearably cruel, and I don't like her character at all. These are just some of the opinions on Reddit, and yeah, I will admit that Carol isn't someone you can immediately be friends with or have a drink with. Although she does love her alcohol quite a lot. Maybe that's why she's so volatile? I think I am right to assume that you also think that Carol cannot control her anger and is an emotional mess. And the way she makes those irritated faces at the hive-minded others also annoys some people. And this also translates to her actions, where it might just seem that Carol isn't doing the obvious thing of simply finding out more without being so bitchy. She is independent, which is cool, but you've also seen how she just will not indulge with the hive-minded people and even have a meltdown directed at them at any minor inconvenience, which, well, as a result, killed a few million of the hive minds, because any emotion other than happiness is their weakness, I suppose. But yeah, it kind of reinforced the hate she's getting because her Karen attitude literally got people killed. Let's not forget the other 12 survivors that she met, because that might have been a cool plot point, but oh, Carol with her attitude botched it again, didn't she? Being all bossy and confronting. A little impatient too, with her pushing to convince the others to find a cure for the hive mind. And as a result, they ended up isolating her. I get all the Reddit posts and comments that say she isn't likable, but guys, she's written that way. I know I'm stating the obvious, but yeah, hate her character all you want, not as a critique of the show, but as someone who is meant to be that way, to serve a purpose to the narrative. If you're struggling with it, let me help you dilute that hate a little bit, so you get why Carol's bitterness is actually a form of resistance towards the mind-numbing happiness apocalypse. So there's the story part and the symbolic part that tells you why Carol behaves the way she does, and why she might just be the right person to basically get the world back to normal. When the world just changes so rapidly, making even the normal stuff seem abnormal, now that millions of people think the same and act as one giant unit, is it so bad that one person just says no? Okay, hear me out, because it's interesting how much Carol stands out as the one little silver lining in all the weirdness that's going on, and is like that little contrast or a smudge in the painting that's annoying to look at, but totally stands out. And by that, I mean Carol's existence just makes sense against the hive mind. Her reaction kind of works, you know, like she was already living a bit of a dual life. Carol, the popular writer, and Carol, the not-so-happy person living with the love of her life. Yeah, she hid the details of her life, gave her fan club what they wanted and hated it, but she loved and cared deeply for Helen and found some form of happiness in the smaller moments. But then that dreadful night happened where the entire world changes, taking Helen's life in the process. Following the transition, even a simple conversation with someone is like talking to an AI. Oh, because they only love and care for you? Yeah, Carol sees through all that. Oh, and her reaction? I mean, look, she lost someone to this whole Hive transition. It would be weird if she immediately accepts the new reality, and I would have hated that too. But Carol is determined and absolutely misunderstood because of her seemingly bad attitude and frankly quite meh social skills. But that's our hero, a bit unconventional but still willing to question the Hive minds and their intentions, instead of taking everything at face value. Okay, now pause and think back on the AI stuff that's blowing up and compare them to the Hive mind and Pluribus. If you take a few seconds to think, you kind of see how they might just be the same. And Carol is a symbol of the importance of being able to retain her sense of individuality, like having a choice and not following the herd mentality in a way. Does it make sense that the Hive people just hand someone a grenade, agree to even just speed deliver a nuke to you all because they can't say no? Sound a bit like what an AI would do, right? I mean, that's what AI does. It just spits out answers in a very pleasing way while sounding super friendly and nice. But in reality, every Hive dude in the world knows everything that everyone shares like an AI data center would. Look at Carol this way. She's what AI algorithms are an enemy of, which is critical thinking. Because as you may have noticed, most of the survivors simply accept the reality and even benefit off it. Yes, I am talking about Kumba Diabe and his harem full of others. In contrast to that, Carol challenges it, tries to draw out logic just as anyone in the real world should when dealing with misinformation and AI-generated responses. Even if her behavior seems like a very direct and aggressive way to tell us that our humanity is important to us, meaning we should not behave like single-minded weirdos. She just had a human response and probably expected the same from those few she met that didn't convert, which, well, you know how it went and they simply left her alone. And yeah, you can see it did affect Carol, so she's definitely not someone who does things for the worst, or at least tries to be helpful in her own way. Nothing should be forced upon anyone, don't you agree? Because once again, Carol shows her refusal of accepting the new normal, despite what the Hive claims about happiness, especially when their actions don't make sense. Because from them claiming to be vegetarian to eating human-derived protein out of the blue for survival, what else would they do to survive? Rage, refusal, saying no are all humane things, and that's what's gone poof from the world. But just like fire melts ice, Carol's Karen-like behavior seems more than necessary because other survivors, except for the Paraguayan man, have simply accepted the world as it is. So Carol's impatience and seemingly jarring behavior might just be the right attitude against hive-minded happiness. And I'm glad there's a second side opposing the hate towards Carol and deeming it an important means to save their world. However, the latest turn of events in episode 7 really has me worried because it did end with Carol going completely out of character. I guess when you're living in utter isolation for 34 days and almost try to get a firecracker to willingly explode on your face, you really do end up at the very brink of utter desperation. We see Carol asking the others to come back and then collapsing on Zosha's arm while trying her best to fight back the tears. Does this mean Carol's Karen era is past us? God, I hope not. Anyway, have you given Carol a second chance after hearing my opinion, or do you feel she still deserves the hate? Whichever side you choose, it's going to be interesting to see how Carol and Manusis team up to save the world. Even though the show isn't over, Pluribus is shaping to be quite the narrative on the importance of simply being human. What are your thoughts about this? Let us know in the comment box below.